picked up some plants on Wednesday of this week from one of my wholesale nurseries that I use. I use them specifically for supplying lots of herbaceous stuff. If I'm doing sort of redesigns or new sort of planting for customers, I use them. A trade only nursery for supplying perennial plants, because they do quite a nice selection. And I thought I'd make this video to show you and share with you a bit of a trick and things to look out for, really, when you are buying plants from nurseries. Now, many wholesale and trade nurseries are growing stock for designers, landscapers, contractors, but also for garden centres. And garden centres, they like to sell plants when they are in flower, because I guess many of the people that buy plants in the bigger chain garden centres are maybe more impulse buyers, and they like to see a plant in flower and get it there and then. Whereas with a traditional nursery who sells more specialist plants, not so much. And I picked up a good selection for a scheme that I'm doing in a couple of weeks. I've had to pick them up early and store them at home until I'm ready to do the job. But there was a few interesting little anomalies on the order. Some of the plants that I've picked up, bearing in mind that I'm videoing this and it's the 6th of May, so we're late spring, we're not even summer, early spring. And some of the stuff that they've given me, this penstemon, for example, is full of flowers. Now, a penstemon shouldn't be flowering for a couple of months yet, really. I've got some in the garden, and they're in leaf, but they're nowhere near flowering stage. Same here. This is a salvia cardona. Now, salvias flower mid to late summer, and this thing is in full bloom now, which absolutely shouldn't be. So this is a sign, really, that these plants have been forced, which means they've been grown indoors, maybe in heated conditions, to give them a head start so they can get them out into garden centres early. But for me, when I'm designing a scheme for someone and I'm including salvias, I'm including them because I know they're going to be flowering mid to late summer and providing colour for that time. So I don't want these flowering now at all, because once they're flowering, they're going to start going over already by middle of end of May. So that's no good for me. So I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do if you should encounter this problem, to try and rectify this, really. And I've had this one. I've got salvias, penstemons, and a veronica that I'll show you in a minute. So what I'm effectively going to do is deadhead all these, cut all the flower stems off, which might sound a bit criminal, really, but for me as a professional gardener, I'm looking for the long term. I don't want these flowering now, so I'm going to manipulate what I've got to get it to flower when I want it to, not now. So if we'll pop the penstemon down there, we'll take the salvia first, and I'll give you a bit of a close-up. So this is Salvia nemorosa cardona. Now, if this was in the garden now, you'd probably have a set of leaves up to that high, but it wouldn't be anywhere near producing flowering shoots. I mean, this is a very healthy plant. you can see what it's going to be doing later on in the year, but it's way too far on. Now, from experience, I know that if we have a look on the stems here, let's use this one as an example. Flowering spike here, you follow it further down, you've got 2 shoots coming out here. So if I prune this one off, just above that node, I've got rid of that flower, and I know that this is then going to produce, it's going to bush out and produce separate shoots. So I'll get a more bushier plant. Same here. You can see it developing 2 new shoots there. Same here. If I focus you in, new shoots coming there. Actually, let's go above on this one. 2 fresh shoots. Snip them off. In here. Snip off. I'm actually going to do this one further down. Now, so what we've ended up here is a vastly different looking plant. All the flowers have been removed, but now we've got all this is going to shoot out from here and form with a much bushier plant, and is going to flower much later on. It's a bit of a pain in the arse that we're having to do this. It ain't ideal, but it is what it is. Penstemon. This is penstemon variety Heavenly Blue. Stunning, stunning flowers. Look at that colour. This is one of my favourite. This one and sour grapes is the one that I normally order. Absolutely stunning. But it shouldn't be anywhere near at flowering stage. This is no good for me at all. So I'm going to do a very similar thing and actually chop all of these flowering spikes off. I'm going to have to put the camera down to do this. And I'm just going to take them off at about 4 to 6 inches. You can be a bit more brutal with penstemon, to be honest. And this is going to then, everywhere where I make a cut, in a few weeks' time it will start producing new shoots and forming a much bushier plant. Good grief, it's tied up with all sorts of wire. Right, this to the uninitiated may look absolutely brutal and crazy, but I've done this lots of times, and I know that this plant will delay flowering. It will bounce back, and the customer will get the benefit of seeing this plant now grow up and flower in time, rather than flowering now and then having to deadhead it straight away. So it might look a bit brutal, but this is a really useful trick. We're going to now show you how we do this with Nepetas. I've got 2 types of Nepetas here. This is Nepeta Musinii, and down here this is Nepeta Govaniana. Nepeta Govaniana is a yellow flowering Nepeta. Nepeta, of course, is the catmint family. So I'm going to show you very same principles of how I'm going to treat these as well. So if you've ever grown catmints before, you know that if you cut them back hard after they finish flowering midsummer, they'll bounce back and give you a second flush later on. This catmint here again is in flower much too early, really, which is a sign that it's been forced. because I know that it will bounce back if I cut it back hard. Again, I'm going to cut all of these flower heads off. Might, like the others, seem a bit brutal, but I know that this plant will now regenerate, and in 2 weeks' time, when I'm ready to actually do this planting job, it's going to be initiating new flower buds rather than kind of already going over. So that's that one all done. Last one is Nepeta Govaniana. Never grown this one before. I've seen it growing in a garden. This is yellow flowers, but never grown it before myself. This is a nice plant that from the wholesaler. We've got quite a few good sturdy stems, and this is a slightly different situation because this one isn't actually flowering yet. Sorry. Sorry, that was my father. This one is not actually flowering yet, but what I'm gonna do is I want to make this into a bushier plant and get more flower heads from this. Stems are a bit like the salvia that I just showed you, and if we zoom in close here, you can see that halfway down the stem we've got 2 leaves breaking off. So I know that if I snip this off here, this plant is then gonna bush out more from these 2 points. So rather than getting one flower going straight up, it will bush out and I'll get more. So I'm just going to do that to all of the others. So you're taking it down to about 6-inch stems where it allows. By the time I'm ready to do this job, these will all be starting to nicely bush out, and I'm going to be getting multiple flower heads from that plant and a much bushier specimen. So, you know, it's all about manipulating what you've got sometimes. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have to do this. Many nurseries grow their stock outside. And you know, this one that I get from does, but some are grown inside and force that bit, which for you as the sort of designer person is not an ideal scenario, because you choose plants and incorporate them into your design for the time of year which they flower. So you're allowing plants for a spring display, early summer, midsummer, late summer. And you don't want your late summer plants flowering in spring, because it just shouldn't happen. So sometimes you just have to manipulate them a bit, and it's knowing kind of when you can do that, how the plant will respond. This would maybe shock a lot of people, but I know that it's going to be absolutely fine. Plants will respond, and yeah, jobs are good, and it's just one of those things you kind of pick up as you go along, trial and error. So that's that. Thank you very much. I hope that's been useful.